The sights and sounds of the sea are why we cherish our coast. But in Rodanthe, the same sea that serenades their hearts has begun crushing their dreams. In less than 2 years, massive erosion with 4 homes consumed by the ocean and more likely to come.
You're talking about maybe 10, 12, up to 15 feet of erosion a year.
Making matters worse,
our problem is we don't have a solution for this.
leaving homeowners scared.
And we're not ready to give up.
No.
We're not ready to give up.
And others flat out mad.
I regret buying this place, absolutely.
Now when you guys come see this house and like this, how does it feel?
It's hopeful,
But upsetting.
Cindy Dowdy and Scott Twentyman have owned this oceanfront house for 20 years, but they haven't lived in it for almost a year.
Where was the house before?
It would have been
Lined up with that one.
lined up with this one.
Wow.
Yeah, they were all in the line.
Erosion and storms have swallowed up the beach.
We got hit with a sort of a 1-2-3 punch. We had 3 nor'easters in quick succession that took the dunes out, and then the next thing we know, the ocean's breaking against the pilings.
You'll see more soon, but they spent an absurd amount of money to move the house back from the beach.
So what do you remember about what this beach looked like where your house was here 20 years ago?
Oh, I mean, the beach was probably out another 7,500 feet. Remember when we did it the last time?
Yeah.
We stayed in the house. There was never a problem. But now, come even a nor'easter, you want to get out because it happened so fast. And I don't know what's changed.
What's changed? Why is the beach shrinking so far so fast? It's a question with few answers. In less than 18 months, 4 homes have crumbled into the ocean. As many as 24 more are in trouble. Ocean Drive provides a clear picture of the dire situation. Septic tanks fully exposed on the beach, pipes sticking out of the sand, and water dancing under the home bellies. When the homes collapse, it sends debris sometimes 20 miles down the coast. You could sense the frustration from the Park Service's march.
It's just so disappointing that visitors, homeowners would allow that to happen, meaning when we've reached out to them for such a long time period. So let's walk out here on the beach, I can show you better.
That's Dare County Manager Bobby Outen. He's essentially stuck in the middle of the homeowners and the National Park Service.
30 years ago, there was a beach that went out in front of these houses, and over time, that beach has eroded away. And as it erodes, you can see where the shoreline and the high water line is up here. So now these houses are now in the wet sand beach, which is part of the park.
In a nutshell, as the beach erodes, homeowners lose their land to the national park.
In North Carolina, the law is that the state owns the wet sand beach. The private property owner can't own a wet sand beach. In the park, the state when they built the park, gave the Park Service their rights in the wet sand beach. So now the Park Service owns the wet sand beach. And so as it eroded and this became a wet sand beach, these houses became a part of the park, and thus they have a problem with the Park Service.
Within a Frisbee throw from where we stand, the famous house from the Nights in a Rodanthe movie that made the town famous worldwide.
So this was delivered about a half hour ago.
It's here Daniel Kurlakian hopes he has a solution to his nightmare.
This is the new septic system that is going to be pumped basically under the dune. So come on in.
He's had only a handful of renters in nearly 2 years, losing out on tens of thousands of dollars.
So there's going to be some people that are going to watch this story and they're going to say, you just bought this house 2 years ago and you see what's happening within 2 years. Why did you buy it? What do you tell those folks?
I would say, I think I bought this house because I had seen, and there's actually many videos. This house was in this same sort of same distance or whatever you want to call it, in the same position, from what I can tell, since 2011.
Kurlakian believes the solution sits in the hands of the National Park Service, who maintains 75 miles of the national seashore.
As long as the beach erodes, the park can just keep that wet sand beach and keep moving inland and potentially just maintain their seashore. But when you look sort of at the history of the Park Service, like I shared with you, and the former director, Conrad Worth, sort of essentially in a letter to the inhabitants of Hatteras Island, promised that they would protect the towns because they were very skeptical of the towns, of the park's formation, and of them sort of gobbling up land.
Sounds like the Park Service should find a solution then, right? Not so fast.
So are you guys coexisting at this point with some of these homes?
I think coexisting is a great way to explain the current situation.
National Park Service Superintendent Dave Halleck manages the Cape Hatteras seashore. On top of current erosion issues, he's also concerned sea level rise could amplify the problem.
So the most current projections that we have for this area of North Carolina come from a report that was published by NOAA in February of 2022, and they estimate between 10 and 14 inches of sea level rise by 2050. That's just 27 years from now.
Halleck feels for the homeowners, but says the park's mission is to protect the beach and public safety.
It's not a typical thing that a National Park Service would be in the business of protecting private properties and neighborhoods. That doesn't mean that we don't care about those problems. As a matter of fact, we did all of the environmental compliance work to facilitate a project if our partners in Dare County or with the state are interested in a project like that. But our core mission is not related to protecting private properties, whether it's a park like Shenandoah or Yellowstone or Cape Hatteras National Seashore.
Halleck says homeowners are misreading that 1950s letter Kurlakian mentioned.
Yeah, so there was nothing in the 1950s in which the Park Service said we would protect homes. What happened was the director of the Park Service at that time, it was during the time that Cape Hatteras National Seashore was becoming established, talked about re-establishing a dune fixation and erosion control project.
It's going to be the laundry room, right?
Yeah, that's why I told him to put the washer and dryer.
Okay.
Meanwhile, construction continues on Cindy Dowdy's house.
This is the disaster floor.
Yeah. You did a pretty good job getting it out of the hallway.
They were lucky with enough beach to move their house back, but it'll cost them $150,000 or more, and they don't rent for income. They knew they had no choice when a house 2 doors down fell in the ocean after back-to-back storms, and debris damaged their house.
And then we got all the sand out, everything dried out. We got the wall rebuilt. Everything was fine. And a week later, we got another nor'easter. And that one came through and snapped the piling. A piece of concrete came through and snapped the piling. And once that piling snapped, that's when we knew that it was getting bad.
Check out this picture. That head you see is the top of a statue that is 5 feet tall. When the county cut the power, they made a decision to move the house.
You know, you put your heart and your soul, and I mean, to us, this isn't just.
This isn't just a beach box rental.
Yeah, I mean, this is our life.
You can look around and see this is.
You know, this is our home, and this is, this was the place that I was gonna, finish up my life in. I was gonna die in this house if this doesn't kill me first. But.
So what can be done? There is a solution, but there's a massive problem.
I want to thank each and every one of you for being here.
County leaders held a public meeting in January to address it.
Testing. Can everybody hear?
County Manager Bobby Outen explained the potential of using beach renourishment, essentially dumping massive amounts of sand to build back the beach. But he was blunt in his assessment.
We don't have $30 million to do that. And without an influx of new money, we aren't going to be in a position to nourish in Rodanthe.
Outen says a new report may show the total as high as $50 million, depending how big you build the beach.
I know some of the owners, they feel like, well, you've done it elsewhere, other places.
It's like we're the redheaded stepchild. It's frustrating to see beach renourishment done in Buxton and Avon. Then they just jump right over us.
Well, they're right. We have done it in other places. The other places needed nourishment, and we have a nourishment fund that's funded with occupancy taxes, and as that fund grows, we use those occupancy taxes to pay for the nourishment projects. And so where it needed nourishment, we did nourishment. At the time we were spending the money, they didn't need nourishment here.
Back at that January meeting, several homeowners pointed fingers at the Park Service.
Congress has billions and billions of dollars that is set aside for Park Service. We're just looking for 20, 30 million to protect.
That's unlikely. Last month, Congress grilled its leader as the national maintenance backlog has doubled to more than $20 billion.
The exponentially increasing backlog at our National Park Service is unacceptable.
No solution in sight, but Bobby Outen continues to search for one. The state legislature could start a renourishment fund for all North Carolina beaches.
There's some push to see if there can't be legislation along those lines. Two, to try to, one, remove the problems, and two, to try to fund the beaches to prevent the problems.
At the same time, all those things are being talked about, but it's a race against time here in Rodanthe, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, another house is, I mean, it's inevitable that another house will fall before any of these solutions get realized, because it just takes time.
And these go down, way down, right?
Oh, way down. So by permit, I mean, it's pretty much 16 feet.
Back on Beacon, Daniel Kerlakian hopes to have renters in this month, but he can't help shake a nagging feeling of the future.
A lot of the homeowners, there's this feeling that there are other people that don't want us here, that don't want these homes here. And that's fine. From a government perspective, it's just, if you're not going to help us, let us protect our homes.
Do you regret buying this place at all?
I regret buying this place, absolutely. But I really like those memories that I had, and I am optimistic about the future. I'm optimistic, but I'm not going to pretend like I don't regret buying. Yeah.
There is a boardwalk that starts there and comes through here. And
On South Shore Drive, Cindy Dowdy and Scott Twentyman wait for the construction to end and a chance to live here in peace once again.
and this is going to sound silly to you guys, but when they first cut the power and the water, I would come down here on my day off and sit there on the couch. And for some reason, it felt like I was sitting with an old friend saying, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. This is just temporary. You know, I felt like I was just sitting with an old friend. And there would be times I'd step outside to do something, and I would just break down in tears.
They bought time with the move. With no plan to ease erosion, how much time until the ocean creeps up again? A question that haunts these oceanfront homeowners in Rodanthe with each passing wave.